Okay, and we're live.
Cool, man.
So I'm with my friend Rafael, and I just told him about the Bitcoin brain, and he was very excited about this idea. So I was very happy to see that, and so we decided to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, so pretty much, gosh, there's just so much to talk about, Daniel, I think it's. How about you started off and you explain what the Bitcoin brain is, and maybe you can talk about how the child of the 2001 Odyssey is who Unicron is.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well, wait. Let's start with the need for miners to have autonomy, because that's a big thing that that I think people don't get. Um, now, a business that is going to earn profits needs to have autonomy because the business needs to be able to plan on what they're going to do, like how they're going to be productive. So what we've seen in some rival chains of Bitcoin is attempts on the part of interests other than the miners to um, to uh, to pretend, let's say, that the miners have less autonomy, because really the miners could start mining anything if they wanted. Um, but I think that we've had a problem in Bitcoin with too much of the hash power not fully understanding what is in its own best interest.
Exactly. So in other words, people are putting their own brains ahead of the Bitcoin brain. That's what's
Um,
happening.
sure, but well, maybe I actually think well, but if you uh I still think you're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to
But
do that.
well, why don't you just try to explain what the Bitcoin brain is now? Because you like the idea, so why don't you say it?
Okay, so for too long in Bitcoin, we've had too many people just um, allowing their egos to get in the way when analyzing all of this, and the reason I think this is due to the fact that we come from a system of financial slavery that forces you to climb a ladder to know more than the other person to just to have a measuring contest at all times. And and Bitcoin is in a radical free market. That is not the best interest for you. That type of like survival strategy was useful when you were part of a pyramid structure, right? And this is indoctrinated into people's minds, in all business and finance faculties, right? That you must be compliant. This is the way you can only. This is the only thing you can do. This is the only way you can make profit is by being obedient, compliant, and so that kind of sets the tone for you to constantly be imposing yourself over others. Now, in a radical free market, you find the person-to-person interaction, which revolves around the value that you give others. And so, what is most it, then what is most valuable for you is for there to be as many options as possible in the market, right? And as many options for value in the market. So when that occurs, you begin to realize that what is of most value to you as a person is not really for you to impose your ideas on others, but rather for the market to find what's best for itself. And 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 so that's what the Bitcoin brain is. This is something that you started, and I think it's genius, Daniel. I think that is exactly how we should all start thinking: is how can I contribute to the Bitcoin brain, right?
Well, okay, well, let me say that DeSantis figured out that Bitcoin is a brain before I did, and I think a few other people did as well. But I think in Bitcoin there is an incentive for everybody to think together and to develop a shared idea about one another. And this incentive is specific to the coin that we all use. So the Bitcoin brain exists in Bitcoin, and the other cryptos have a different brain,
Yeah.
right?
So like,
So, but
yeah,
you can't, and they don't have a shared brain, but everybody in one unit has a shared brain.
yeah.
And
So what's the fiat brain, right? Let's compare it to the fiat brain. The fiat brain is one of coercion, fear.
well,
Um,
I think that it's actually one of stupidity. I'm a big
yeah, it
believer
is.
in the banality of evil, but see, if in fiat there isn't this incentive for people to achieve centrality, because there is a center. There's the Federal Reserve, right?
Hmm.
So and there isn't a contest to get to the center. Really, there is a propaganda campaign to make people believe that the Federal Reserve is just it's just naturally in the center, and it will
Yeah.
never move from the center.
Wow, man, that's beautiful what you just said, Daniel. Because when you achieve centrality in the free market, you're not really achieving like power, but you're looking to achieve the most value for everyone else, because that in itself is what's most valuable to you.
Right. And uh, everybody has everybody in Bitcoin wants Bitcoin to succeed, and uh, money is itself a form of cooperation. So everybody has to be thinking about their place in the whole in order to cooperate with everybody else. So, and if everybody is going to do that at the same time, they will eventually have uh, shared ideas about what the whole is.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
you're right. It's people are seeking purpose, right? And they're trying to seek purpose for themselves and others when they're completely free. Whereas if you're a slave under like the financial system that we come from, you really, a slave cannot, pursue their purpose, cannot pursue meaning for their life. So yeah, you're on the money, man. You're completely right. It's very praxeological, the process of discovering what's profitable and valuable for everyone.
right, but if everybody has a shared idea of one another, that's kind of like that's a shared consciousness, I think. See, to me, that's why there's a Bitcoin brain, is that everybody needs to develop this shared idea about what Bitcoin is.
Hmm.
But yeah, in order to do that, you have to think about how you can add value, and
Exactly.
you can't start thinking about that until you understand that Bitcoin is a system of cooperation. So the way that you add value is by facilitating that cooperation.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Daniel, like I also think that um, in order to get the Bitcoin brain, you have to be someone that has already understood that the profit that you make that is most valuable is in Bitcoin itself, not in fiat, right? So for
R-
if you're a miner that just seeks to sell his coin for fiat right away, you really don't understand the value of the Bitcoin brain. So that's something you and I were talking about this before this call, right?
Right.
Maybe you
So
want to expand
yeah,
on
so
that.
if you're mining and then you immediately sell all of the coins that you mine, um you're um you're thinking in terms of dollars, and you're treating, well, whatever currency you sell to, but let's say dollars, right? And you're thinking about the dollars as being your income, and you're being paid at the moment that you sell the bitcoins that you made.
And the person that
Um,
does that is bought into the system of fiat. So they're bought into the centrality of a central bank. They're bought into the fear, coercion, and stupidity that that economy breeds, right? Whereas if you are a person that understands the importance of having free money, money governed by free market consensus of through of proof of work, then you're someone that now desires to have that money and to profit just based on Bitcoin, and now you're a person that sees the Bitcoin brain and that actually starts to realize that they can contribute to that value seeking behavior, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said something really interesting before we started the call, and you said, well, you were saying it now, but you said it even better before, because you just said they can't see the brain, they can't see the Bitcoin brain. And that's
Yeah, they
true,
can.
because if you're
They can't see
seeking,
it.
yeah, if you're seeking profits in dollars and you think that you want income in dollars, then you are effectively you're seeking centrality in the dollar network,
Yeah.
right? But
Also, yeah, you're completely right. Also, people that don't see the Bitcoin brain are people who can't let go of their damn egos. People that want to put their own ideas out there before the market, right? It's like when you see the magic of human nature as it interacts freely in the market. You need to come at it like a begling, just in awe of it, like wow, in reverence. You need reverence. You really need to have a sort of reverence once you understand that we're building something incredible, not just something where we can just cash out into fiat, right? And
yeah,
and it's not my opinion that matters. It's not my damn agenda or anyone's agenda. It's really the market's agenda. And that's something that is discovering itself, as time goes on
well,
through the creativity of everyone's contribution.
it's your agenda and the market's agenda. You have to find the right balance. It's
Yeah, well,
your
it's in my best interest to have this mindset, right?
Yeah,
Because what's best for me is for the market to provide me as many valuable options as possible. That's the intelligent way of seeing it. That's what
yeah,
really is valuable to me and for
yeah,
me. Not my
yeah,
not how I see Bitcoin or how my opinion is of no, that doesn't matter. What matters is really is that that it's the market's mind. It's the brain of Bitcoin. And the Bitcoin brain is possible because of the mechanism of proof of work that is untarnished, proof of work that hasn't been impeded by developers or checkpoints or shit like that. Proof of work has to be something that is completely untarnished. So right now the only blockchain that has that is BSV, Bitcoin Vision,
yeah,
Satoshi's Vision. That's
and
it.
yeah. Well, okay. Well, first of all, I agree. Yeah, yeah, the autonomy of miners needs to be intact, and
Yeah.
I think the other versions of Bitcoin think that they can sort of tell miners what to do, and they think that it's very dangerous if miners were to become more more economically productive.
Yeah.
Um,
It's ridiculous, man, to think that those that whose greatest interest is the security of the network are not the ones to guide us in the best means possible, right?
yeah, and I also agree that proof of work is what makes this possible, because uh, yeah, there's a connection between proof of work and thinking, and to me that's what creates the brain. Because
Please expound on that, Daniel. Expound
okay,
on that. Proof of work and thinking.
so proof of work is it's a verifiable signal of lost energy, and energy is it's lost energy is just opportunity cost. It's just stuff that you can't do anymore because it was burned hashing, and it was used to make this signal. And
Right.
so what I think is that uh, proof of work opposes intelligence, and um, that means that it creates a contest to be the most intelligent, because you have to be the most intelligent in order to have the most energy to throw away. So, uh, ultimately, what I see happening is that most of the energy going through Bitcoin is not going to be spent hashing, but uh, but miners will have to have a lot more energy to do all kinds of different things, um, other than hashing, and the hashing is just going to be the proof uh, that that the rest exists. And
Well, well
as
yeah,
long as the miners have autonomy, then they can plan on growing that way.
that's awesome, man. I've never thought about it that way. Thank you, Daniel. It's almost as if you are challenging the human mind to become more creative by expending that energy. You know, like the human mind, when you do that, you're challenging the market and saying, okay, we're guarding this special space with a consensus only for the growth of a radical free market, and we're expending so much energy for this to happen, right? So much energy for this to happen, to have a system completely dedicated by specialized computers to safeguard this network. Now it's up to the people within this network to make it valuable, and sky's the limit. So go on and be as creative as possible. So in other words, this is a bet. What the miners are doing is that they're betting on the creativity of humanity.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
almost like, yeah,
Well,
it's like they're hedging a bet and saying, I bet that this system that we're guarding and we're protecting will become will be in the future, will be extremely valuable because we're guarding complete radical innovation within this system, right?
yeah.
And that's beautiful, man. It's like they're really trusting human nature, and they're really trusting creativity. They're
Well,
trusting the market. That's freaking phenomenal, man.
yeah. Well, yeah. But I think it's not trust. I mean, it is kind of like trust, but I think it's also just game theory. Like it's you're imagining what is in other people's incentives and what they're going to do, and that's how you start thinking about the Bitcoin brain. When you start thinking about that, because you realize there's more and more and more, and it gets more and more complicated until you have to start thinking of the whole Bitcoin economy like it's one integrated being, right? Uh,
Wow.
but that's how it starts. And in nature, the handicap principle, uh, it works just like how I said it's going to work in Bitcoin. So that's why I'm so certain that this is going to happen, is because I think that there is a direct analogy to things that we can see in nature. And so what we see in nature is that uh, a costly signal creates a contest that that to do what opposes it. Um, so what happens? So a common pattern is that the males of a species are in a contest to grow a costly signal. So it could be like the peacock's tail or horns or antlers or something.
Right.
And whatever the signal is, it is the it's the opposite of everything that it takes to be successful as this particular type of animal, whatever we're talking about. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So the signal opposes success, and um it's like the design is made it's like Harrison Bergeron, right? You know that story? The
Please give us the cliff notes, man.
Oh, no, just go and read it after the discussion.
Giving
But
me homework. That's
yes,
awesome.
but the signal, opposes what the animal needs to be in order to be successful. And that's the reason that the signal is honest, because um, only the most successful animals are able to have extra resources that they can use to create the signal.
That's awesome.
So what I say is that lost energy opposes intelligence. So that's so Bitcoin is a brain, and it is everybody's incentive to figure out how to think together so that the maximum signal can ultimately be generated. And every okay, so you asked earlier about my recent episode 2001 with the Transformers movie. So if you haven't seen it, go and watch it now, but I think we can get to that now. But there's spoilers. You should just watch the episode if you haven't, but if you have, we'll talk about it now. So to me, in this episode, I identified the Star Baby from 2001: A Space Odyssey with the character of Unicron from the 1986 Transformers movie, and so this episode is a way of getting you to start thinking about the Bitcoin brain and about the ethics of interacting with other people in Bitcoin in order to form the brain. So the character of Unicron in the Transformers movie, I think, is like a way of getting children to think about their own bodies and about their place in the universe, because Unicron is kind of like he's a giant robot planet that wants to eat all of the other planets. And so to me, he's kind of like the will of a baby who thinks that it's the center of the universe, right? And Unicron is going around eating up the other planets in this movie. And he's more powerful than everybody. And when we're introduced to him in the movie, we see inside of him. So we see his metabolism when he's eating the planets, and we see inside his brain. We see what he's thinking. So I think that he is also like getting the child to think about themselves and their body and how they think. But and the movie also has a story about learning how to cooperate better with other people. So
Yeah, Daniel, can I expound on something really quick?
yeah,
It's almost as if what you just said is exactly what's happening in Bitcoin, right? Like people are starting to realize that, oh gosh, a radical free market is possible. Well, what does that mean for me as a person participating in a truly radical free market? You look inward, right? What does that mean to me? What does that mean for us now, that we don't need central planners? Back in the day, it was really hard to talk about a world without central planning, right? It was really hard to talk about a world without central planning, and most statists and Keynesians were like, well, who else? Who's going to build the roads, right? Who's gonna make sure everything's fine within the market and you're not going to get ripped off, right? Well, now we're seeing that we can create a world where it's decentralized, right? So yeah, we can definitely now we have to be introspective.
yeah. Well, and what's interesting to me is before I got into Bitcoin, it was sort of like the idea of a free market where people are all sort of interacting um, as traders, right? Not traitors, traders. Like their social relations are based on commerce, and not based on allegiance to some central organization. And this idea seems like it is beyond people's imagination before I got into Bitcoin.
Yeah, because they're indoctrinated not to think this way, Daniel.
Yeah, but once you get into Bitcoin, it's almost like like if you don't figure this out quickly, you fail the intelligence test, and you end up being manipulated.
Exactly. It's like Bitcoin is the destruction of macroeconomics. So everything is a microeconomic transaction now from person to person. I do not need a central planner.
Yeah, well, but it all works out together. It's a
Yeah.
way of everybody cooperating. So there is macroeconomics. It's just that all of the incentives are aligned.
You know, that's man, that's such an awesome that's so awesome to think, you know, that we are seeking centrality now by means of providing greater value for everyone else. And if you're not doing that, you're not part of the Bitcoin brain. If you stand in the way of that, you're literally wasting our time, our resources. You know, if you think you know more than if you think you know better than the market, man, just like please exit, you know.
Well, wait. So, no, everybody knows something better than the market. What's bad is if you think you always know better than the market.
Well, you know what's better for the market within your immediate like
Right.
contingent environment, right? So as a node, right, you are the most valuable person in the economy
Oh,
because you get to arbitrage what's next to you, right? You see the deficits and excesses in your immediate environment, and that allows you to entrepreneur.
right.
Correct?
Or whatever you understand about the market that's better than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there can be lots of things. But you were saying something. Oh, yeah, okay. So yeah, but I wanted to respond to something you said earlier about seeking profits in Bitcoin is finding centrality in the network, and that in order to do that, um, that's sort of thinking. You have to think about the Bitcoin brain to do that, because you have to think about your place in the whole,
Yeah.
and you have to figure out where the center is in order to move to it. So, um, so, um, so another thing that you said. Oh well, yeah. So I was saying this earlier, but before you said they can't see the brain, and I just thought that this was really funny because for a long time I've been sort of struggling to understand why people didn't think Bitcoin Cash was valuable, and now I'm having similar problems with BSV, where people just don't get what is good about it. um, and talking about incentives isn't something that they I don't know. It's not something that
Well, look, Daniel, look at
that
you, man. Just look at yourself. You know, we've been friends for a while. And look at yourself as a person, man. I mean, your way of coming into Bitcoin. By the time you were in Bitcoin, Daniel, you were already writing papers for the Mises Institute. You know, so it's obvious to you why this makes sense, right?
yeah. But
Um,
wait. Oh, sorry, I didn't quite finish.
other people have to go through a unschooling process of 12 years of government indoctrination, then paid indoctrination, and if they went to business school, they were indoctrinated in compliance and in the need of a central authority.
Yeah, yeah, but but I wasn't quite finished with what I was saying earlier. Yeah, but if you're not profit seeking in Bitcoin, you literally can't see that the brain exists,
Yeah, exactly.
because
Yeah.
your only way to experience it is by profit seeking. Otherwise, you will not notice it.
Yeah, it's a special type of profit seeking, right? It's a profit seeking that you have to have almost like X-ray vision into the future to
Yeah,
know the immense value of Bitcoin. Like you have to understand that, like, holy smokes, this is a true radical free market. Where in BSV, being the only blockchain that is not tarnished, you know, in its proof of work process, in BSV, it's a process where the whole world is invited to participate, even the government. And that's what's crazy, right?
yeah,
That's what's crazy. It's like everyone's incentive is aligned.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a huge step forward if governments are dependent on Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. And you know, that's part of like you know, what I call anarchist strategy, right? It's an anarchist strategy, but it's an anarchist strategy that 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 is so confident in the free market that is not scared at all if governments get involved. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're just another competitor. Well, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I think that okay, well, let's talk a little bit about this too, because I think that the socialist calculation argument of von Mises suggests that central planning is a loss of energy relative to capitalism. Okay, because people can't plan correctly under central planning,
Yeah,
there's always energy leaks in
yeah,
whatever system they come up with because
yeah,
they can't see the entire economy,
exactly.
right? Okay, so energy leaks. What does Bitcoin not like?
Bitcoin doesn't like what's the answer for that, Daniel?
Energy leaks.
Energy leaks. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like,
So
yeah,
so I think that there's an incentive for people who are allied with central planners to change their alignment, because
yeah.
Bitcoin creates more opportunity than their system.
You know,
So
I've
I
always seen, yeah, you're completely right. I've always seen Bitcoin as a hack on human self-preservation, right? It's like it's hacking self-preservation. So yeah, I don't care if look, sooner or later, every bureaucrat out there is going to be like, holy smokes, look at our fiat system is devaluing every day. Maybe I should just like buy some Bitcoin just in case, like for my family. It's self-preservation. Like
yeah,
all bureaucrats are going to buy. I bet you anything, Trump has a wallet. I bet you
I don't know,
anything,
maybe
dude. I bet you
he's kind of
anything.
old.
I bet you, dude. I don't care. I bet you anything. If they're smart enough, they have, they see like value in it, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna hedge my bet, just a small bet here, just in case
Yeah.
you never
Okay,
know, right?
wait a minute,
Maybe
because
these crazy anarchists are right someday, so I'm just gonna buy a little bit of crypto and set it aside.
okay, I'm going to say something that I think that may sound crazy, but I've said enough. I mean, I've said plenty already, but here's another one. So I think that we will see a brain drain from outside of Bitcoin into Bitcoin, similar to what we've seen from the core cult into the Bitcoin Cash community. See, because just like how the core people can't see what's valuable about Bitcoin Cash because
Yeah,
they're not really thinking about future global money. Same thing with people outside of Bitcoin. So I think that Bitcoin is sort of drawing intelligence in,
of course.
and it's leaving the places where there's less opportunity.
So I don't know if you saw that, like that, yeah, put out. So supposedly the Department of Homeland Security is trying to trying to figure out how Monero works, and then I did a little research on the guy that's behind it. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is what they have. Like, oh my god, like I feel bad for them trying to like figure out how Monero works because the guy that they have in charge is like gosh, man, I feel, dude, I'm not, I'm at loss for words at how this guy's incompetent, in this, if you just look at his curriculum vitae. I mean, I digress, but yeah, you definitely, there's a brain drain. Why? Because this is where you're in. This is Gulch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, well, here's another point about what I was saying earlier is so another thing is if you are in control of government resources and you're supposed to be central planning, um, one of the easiest things that you can do in a future Bitcoin world is mine, because you can use the appropriated resources to get mining machines pretty easily. So if you're if so that's a way that that uh, you're incentivized to plug up the energy leaks. Is that because central planning doesn't work very well, there's always a point where you're just better off just mining. Uh, and because governments are corrupt, uh, they'll do that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're already doing it, right? North
Oh,
Korea, Venezuela is trying to
yeah.
get
Oh,
into
one
mining.
more thing I forgot. And once you start mining, you can't stop. Sorry to interrupt, but forgot to say this. You can't stop because you have to keep reinvesting.
Yep.
So that's less reinvestment, that less resources that can be spent on reinvesting in soldiers and military stuff, and the more that has to go into mining.
Yeah, it's well, Daniel, is there anything else for us to talk about here? I think we touched on a lot of things. I mean, maybe
no, I don't have-
maybe we talk about what I said about Monero and juxtaposing mining within Monero versus BSV.
Oh, sure. So yeah, tell me about what you were saying earlier about how mining works in Monero.
Well, Monero has a vision that, you know, fungibility and anonymity is their compass, right? Which is not a bad compass, right? For an untarnished Bitcoin blockchain, which would be BSV, the goal is to have global money where anyone can participate, right? And so it's everyone can participate, like we said, even governments are welcome to participate. Because the game theory within that system is that the market will always win, right? I think that Monero is so focused on being fungible and private, which is great, that by necessity within their own game theory, they have to make sure that they're focused on that, and so that leads them to not want to have everyone join. I think everyone will join in mining Monero if they find it to be their own self-interest, but it's not like. But the thing is with Monero is that there's checkpointing, right? There's the change of algorithm that constantly happens to make sure that there's not mining centralization, right? Because their focus is so, you know, it's such a focused community when it comes to crypto governance that I mean, arguably it's great, and arguably it doesn't have the value that something like BSV has, right? But BSV, you have to understand that BSV is not per se an anarchist coin, right? But it's a coin for everyone.
Yeah, and I like that a lot better than a coin that's specific to any group of people.
Yeah, but you know, like you know, when we had the Mises circle, and this is something that I spoke to you earlier, and we talked with Peter Serta on his regression theorem. Back then, if you guys Google Peter Serta, his regression theorem of value, when it in comparison to Bitcoin. Then Walter Block wrote one later on in 2015. But in 2013, you and I had a meeting with Peter Serta, and we had this discussion. We talked about whether the market, whether we're going to have, we literally, before Monero existed, we were already talking about a coin that specializes in anonymity, and a coin that specializes in being global money governed by proof of work, right? We literally talked about this, and if you see that video, man, it's almost like we are foreseeing what is happening now. And yeah, I think it has a place, right? I think it has a place, definitely has a place. Again, Monero right now is the only coin that has on-chain privacy by default, right? It has its place. Now, BSV definitely, I mean, there's nothing like BSV right now in the market. It's the only proof of work algorithm blockchain where miners have not been impeded from competing freely. And that makes it extremely special.
Okay, well, I guess to me the autonomy of miners is much that's more important than what Monero purports to offer. So I'm still not very interested in it.
Cool.
But
cool.
But anyway,
that's cool.
I think that if you have altcoins, that means you are you're being pulled into two different brains at the same time. So fortunately, the Monero brain isn't very strong because they don't want to have autonomous miners. So you haven't been driven insane yet.
Well, I mean, I can't say I can disagree with logic, you know.
Okay.
I can't. You know,
yes,
but
logic.
But again, think about it, Daniel. The thing is that they can't. It's almost like when you don't have money that is for everyone and for every purpose out there, that is driven completely by a radical free market, then you have to intervene with proof of work. And that is the same argument that the ABC camp would say, right?
Yeah.
That's the same argument that BTC has as well, right? That you
Yeah.
have, there's always an excuse why you should intervene with proof of work. And
Yeah.
again, that's why BSV is so unique, is that the commitment to never interfering with that. That makes it very unique.
Yeah. Well, I would say that you actually can't. Well, it doesn't make any sense to say that you can that Bitcoin isn't what gets mined. It's like it's just lying about it and sort of pretending. If you have a developer group that is trying to say what Bitcoin is,
All right,
and
could you please repeat the first part?
um, it doesn't really make any sense to say that Bitcoin is anything other than what gets mined to me, because the
Okay.
the signal with the proof of work on it is the signal that people have the incentive to pay attention to.
Yeah.
See, so whatever has lots of leading zeros on it, people are going to pay attention to it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the miners have to make sure that whatever it is valuable.
Right.
And so I don't think that they need to change the original rules of Bitcoin. See, but it's possible that they would need to change something in the future, right? Because it's
Right.
possible that something isn't quite right,
Right,
right?
that is something that revolves around the fact that miners are like waking up, right?
Yeah,
Miners are
and
finally
right,
realizing, oh gosh, this is like, I need to be a leader. You know, there was during the hash war, Roger Ver put out a video, and he literally said, he literally said this. I'm going to quote him. He's like, miners don't want to have to decide. Miners literally don't want to have to choose.
yeah, but
I'm like, that's the problem. Miners
yeah,
should be leaders. Miners should be deciding, but that's
yeah,
that's that's going to happen now. Thank God, which is a good
yeah,
thing.
right. So the way they would, yeah, and the way they would know if they needed to change the rules is they would all have to think about one another. So engage with the Bitcoin brain and figure out what their incentive actually is.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it's just going to be sticking with the original rules, because the original rules were really good.
Well, I think even the argument beyond that is one of economics, man.
Well, yeah,
Because
I
if you get
mean,
caught up in the technicals, people then again, like earlier today, I mentioned something. I said that when people don't understand economics, they think they can make up by throwing like technological convolutions in there so that they can fix a problem. But I think the argument is more, the most solid argument for that is the economic argument, that you need to have an untarnished and a free market blockchain that has not been intervened by anyone, right? That's what matters, is really the market being the guide, not anything else but that.
yeah, yeah, and people interacting with one another and thinking about their place in the whole.
Yeah.
That's more
So
important than inventing new crypto nonsense.
yeah. Cool, man. All right, Daniel, I
Okay,
think we're done.
okay, great discussion. I'll see you later.
All right, take care, man. Peace.